Hi, Paul.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good, brother. How are you? Tell me everything. You just got back from somewhere. You're flying around. What are you doing?
I'm currently in my home in Alpharetta, Georgia, where I live with my wife and three kids. We got two boys and a girl, and I'm loving just being home. I just had the good fortune of making a movie in Prague. I knew nothing about Prague. I just knew it was like near Germany, kind of.
Okay.
And I went for 2 weeks on Zach Kreger's new Resident Evil movie. And
Nice.
it's not like a huge role, but it's a cool movie to be a part of. Like I kind of just wanted to work with Zach Kreger after I saw Barbarian and Weapons. I just thought he was so cool.
Yeah, Zach's the best. So, Paul, usually before we get on these pods, I hop on and kind of give a rundown of what this whole thing's about. But
Yeah.
I think because you and I are so close, we've known each other so long, I kind of wanted to just jump into it with you because
Yeah.
you are the prime example of the type of person that should be talking on things like this for us. So the whole point of this podcast is the pursuit of the desire. It's not necessarily a podcast that's about being an actor or what it's like to be famous or what it's like to be in movies. It's more about the desire to do it. And it speaks to the people here because in Buffalo, there's this film industry that's budding, and there are these movies coming to town, and there's all these people here with all this knowledge of how to make films. And so independent film is becoming huge out here.
Oh,
And
awesome.
in order to pursue this desire the way that guys like you and I have when we started and where we started, it all has to start from somewhere. And so these people in Buffalo who are so committed to this thing, who are ready to pursue this desire, they're being presented this desire in a completely different way. They don't have to do the same things that we did to get started, pack up, move to LA, live on a couch, sleep on a floor, figure it out. But at the same time, it's a whole nother journey. So I think the days of actors talking to other actors about what it takes to get started is kind of behind us. I think what we need to do is relate on why we're starting in the first place.
I mean, no matter what, that's always the actual origin of the desire, as you're pointing out, like that. That's everything in acting or not acting. Like if it's not there, it's kind of like you're doing a facsimile of what you should be doing. I think like keep in mind, I'm Andrew and I are from the same place. I'm from Saginaw, Michigan, which is like basically right by Flint, where Andrew grew up. Um, but where Andrew ended up moving to LA and doing the whole like you did the whole pilot season thing, yes?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, as like a kid. Really good documentary you should watch called Hollywood Complex. It's a fascinating insight
and I
into
lived
that
there.
world.
Yeah.
But I was the opposite. I was more like upstate New York. I stayed in Michigan. I got my first role in a movie in Michigan. The first two movies I did were in Michigan, and I was busy like early on doing stand-up comedy at bars and coffee shops in Michigan. I got my first agent ever in Michigan. So like I've had more of that experience that they're having in Buffalo than you would think. It was very much a small town thing until it became an LA thing.
Yeah. Which it's funny that that's how it worked for you because I truly believe, and I've had Brian on here and I've had Ben on here and I've had Jack Houston and everybody
Dude,
that
you've
I've,
had you've had so many good people on the show already. It's
yeah, man,
insane.
and we haven't even
I
released an episode yet.
I know.
But and I do want to talk about your bookings in Michigan because I think that's like a really cool story of how that happened. How I always
Yeah.
talk about cream rises to the top. Like if it's meant to be and you're meant to do it, you're going to do it, and others will see that. But I want to go back to like the root of it, which is what starts this whole conversation. So I'll give the example that I give people when I do the prep call. So for me, pursuing acting started with a desire to be liked. And it wasn't about being loved. I had love. My parents loved me. Everybody, I had plenty of love, but I wanted people to like me. And
Yeah.
so early on in my life, wanting to be liked was the desire. And that desire to be liked then led me to realizing, well, people like actors, well, people like comedians, people like so then I develop a sense of humor. And then I develop, this idea to be performative. And then it occurs to me, oh, acting is a career. And so that desire to be liked has changed slightly. And I don't mean it's gone away. I mean it's evolved because now that desire is backed up by what I'm in pursuit of. So being liked is the root. It's like I started it because I wanted that, and then I fall in love with all the other stuff that gets me to where I am at 36 years old. So Paul, when you were sitting in Saginaw and you're who you were then, what was this? What is the desire that began this pursuit? How did you decide like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do and why?
Um, honestly, I think it's two prong. I think it's like 50% getting attention and 50% using humor to bring comfort to other people. So if I go back, I would say when I was a little kid, I remember humor de-escalating dicey moments with family or friends or whoever. It was like humor could be used. Like I have vivid memories of being 7 years old, and my best friend at the time, this guy Josh Britton, who I'm still friends with today. I remember Josh hurting my feelings, and then he was like a little kid with a foul mouth. He was like, 7, 8 years old, quoting like Ace Ventura. And he was like, "What do you want me to say? I'm an asshole." And we're on like, he made me cry or whatever. And then he literally started shouting on the playground at 7, 8 years old, "I'm an asshole." And then, eventually got pulled in and got yelled at and reprimanded. But like he was using humor to diffuse my momentarily, wily emotions. And and there were multiple moments of seeing humor be a tool for survival in certain situations. We'll put it.
Yeah.
If MacGyver had like a paper clip and a piece of chewing gum to make a bomb or get out of a room, my toolkit was like humor and performance. Um, and then I think the other part of it is being one of four kids. I have two older siblings and one younger sister. So I was one of four. And in a house with four kids, if you want your voice to be heard, you better find a unique way of doing it. Uh, and being the third child in the bunch, the lower middle kid, humor was like a way to get respect and attention. And even at a young age, I recognized that I needed that thing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that I think that would be my answer, which is thank God I've done so much therapy. If I did this interview with you like 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to give that answer. But I've at least like learned where some of this, behavior and these ideas come from.
So when did it go from, okay, fine, humor's the thing, and you realize that humor makes you stand out, it connects you to people, it makes you a problem solver. Like I think like how you
Yeah.
were describing it, like as the lower middle kid in a family with all this stuff, it's like what role do you play? The older's the
Yeah.
oldest, the youngest is the baby. It's like what role do you play? And so for you, it was
Perfect.
like I can crack jokes and be humor, and it also gives me a position of control.
And from a psychological standpoint, you could not have said it better. There is a role that we end up playing, probably conscious and unconsciously. And for me, it was the role of jester and breaking the ice and smoothing things over, and also maybe taking the heat off somebody else in a moment, kind of like the friend who like takes the fall for the friend group that's screwed up.
Yeah.
Like there was a little bit of that. I remember i remember in high school my brother and sister saying something to me like, there are things you say in front of mom and dad that you're not supposed to say. And it was like that irreverence, that like purposeful irreverence, strategic irreverence was like, it was definitely less about being funny and more about trying to control a situation, I think.
Yeah, to
It
stand
was
out. So when
well
did
to
it?
stand out or to display dominance,
Sure.
as if to say like, I'm uncomfortable with everyone's conformity, so I'm going to break the uniformity and stand out for the sake of not being this other thing. And I still do that to this day. That's a
Yeah,
big.
I was gonna say I think comedy to its root is the awareness of irony. Like the ability to see a situation and go, how ironic if I said the thing you're not supposed to.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think the truest root of comedy is like what's the opposite of what's happening and how can I say it in a way where I'm pointing out the irony in it.
I do it all the time for self amusement. Like
Yeah.
I talk in elevators all the time. I'll be in a stuffy elevator with five random people, and I'll just be like, "You guys see that big game last night?" And then kind of, you're doing like a Farley John Candy thing, and they'll be
So-
like, some dude will be like, "What game?" And I'll be like, "There were so many I couldn't keep track." It's like, why
Yeah.
are you making this? Why are you making this moment awkward for everybody else? Well, because it's fun, and this is not
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do in an elevator.
So when did it go from a purpose that helped you survive in your household and socially to something where you thought, oh, this is actually now an art form that I can pursue professionally? What was the transition for you there?
That came through watching other actors. That was like, I had this tattoo that's now become vaguely famous, where it's like I have all my childhood comedy heroes on my arm, and it's Martin Short, Daniel Stern, Jim Varney, Chris Farley, Jim Carrey, and Robin Williams. And the reason I have them on my arm is like they were the ones who told me like this is the power of comedy. This is the fun of comedy. This is like this is what it can be. And that was a big deal for me, obviously. Um, but you know what it was? I didn't know any of this was an art form until I saw Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. I was like 12 years old, sitting on the edge of a bed watching HBO in some rundown hotel, waiting to go to a wedding reception. And it's that thing, your mom's blow drying her hair, your dad's, buffing his shoes, and you're killing time. And they're not noticing that I'm like watching a grown up rated R movie on the TV, which was not a thing we did back then. But it was the courtroom scene between Nicholson and Tom Cruise. And I was so like magnetized to it, and I was like, "What?" And it's so weird how you remember certain things. What I remember thinking was, "Why do these two guys hate each other so much?" I missed the last hour and a half that would have explained that. I'm just coming in on the courtroom scene at the end. Why do I believe that these guys really hate each other? And why am I like drawn to it and fascinated by it? So for me, at a young age, it was A Few Good Men, and then I saw As Good as It Gets, and then I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I was like, dude, whoever this Jack Nicholson guy is. Plus,
I
I'd seen
hope
him
people
play.
learn about this guy soon because he's incredible.
Yeah, right. I,
12-year-old Paul's
and
like, I should be his agent.
the voice of the Joker, or the voice that played the Joker, it was just like, who is this guy? He's the coolest guy ever. He's the shit. And then a few years later, in 2002, I saw Daniel Day Lewis in Gangs of New York in a movie theater. And that, once again, I'm 16. This is like a grown up movie. I'm going to see it in theaters. And it's like, who is this person who's making me fear for my life as an audience member? Why do I believe him so much? So I would say it was Jack, then Daniel Day Lewis, and then Phil Hoffman. That triumvirate between 1997 and like 2004, that was me being like, yo, this is like a craft. This is an art form. This is like something I could do if I go to school and take it seriously and work really hard. And that was the age of, getting to know the internet, at least for me as a kid. And it was like, um, I just started looking up the trivia pages on IMDb for every actor. And it was me trying to clock, what did they do to become an actor? What do I have to do? That was kind of what set me into the course of, this is something to take seriously and hone. This is something to make a career out of, and it's something to be creatively competitive with oneself.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the first movie that you did in Michigan, but I just want to give a little insight because keep in mind I've known Paul a long time. I've known Paul.
When did we
We
meet?
met
Like
at an
2012?
audition for Glee a long time ago, and I had written something. So Paul was represented. Me and Paul have the same manager to this day, same manager. But back then he was our agent.
Yeah.
Which goes to show my point of acting is not competition. Please stop, get that out of your head. It's not, because if me and Paul can be as tight as we've been this whole time and have the same team and the same this, it's not a competition. There have been times where I'll never, dude, some crazy guest star on a thing in the middle of Paul's run was the show Librarians. And I booked it and I was like, oh man, Paul's here. And Paul was like, you son of a bitch. I'm like, fuck
I
you, dude.
wanted it
I,
so
Tanya,
bad.
fucking like, get out of here, bro. But like it isn't like that. It's a supportive thing. It's different artists,
No,
But
we've both beat each other out for stuff, and
bunch
it's
of times.
usually just we're just glad one of us got it. We're excited that one of the homies.
Yeah, I'd rather it
won.
be him than someone else, you know.
Yeah.
That's what you want. But what I know about Paul's experience is when Paul came to LA, it wasn't instant. Like when you hear the stories of people sharing apartments with fucking 11 people, and you hear people, you know, Paul had to, I think there's a part of the story where Paul went back home and worked at a bowling alley. Um,
Yeah.
it didn't come easy. So the world sees Paul Hauser now as this guy that all of a sudden is in every movie in the theaters that's coming out for a season, and they're seeing this and they're like, wow, look at this flash over, like this guy that's just hit the scene running. Paul's been doing this as long as I have, longer technically, and it hasn't been this overnight thing. It was a slow, grueling, brutal journey for Paul,
We've been
until it
doing
wasn't.
I've been doing it for, I mean, it depends how you categorize doing it. But like
Pursuing it.
I did 10 plays in high school. I did 10 plays in 4 years. That's like being one of those multiple sport athletes, but for theater. I was doing stand-up comedy and writing screenplays by the time I was 16, 17 years old. So it's like I didn't truly start and like book my first thing until I was like 22, 23, but I technically started earlier, in my opinion, because it was shit ton of work nobody will ever see.
My belief is as soon as you start pursuing the desire relentlessly, it starts. So
That
whether
was
you're
my
getting
senior
paid
year.
for it,
Yeah,
whether you're in the whatever, as soon as you make that decision, that's day one.
that
Because
was
once you make that
16 years
decision,
old.
there's no turning back.
But so Michigan was interesting. I don't know if anyone will recall this, but Michigan got a tax incentive in like 2005, and it became like a legislative thing that if you filmed your movie in Michigan, you could get like 30, maybe 33% of your
That's what they
budget
have here. They have the same thing here right now. That's happening here.
but more. New York is even more than that. New
Yeah.
York's like 40, 45, depending on how you play it and what your production is. But the one in Michigan was pretty good, and it rivaled like Louisiana and stuff where they shot Talladega Nights in Shreveport. But a couple years later, they shot Semi Pro with Will Ferrell and Woody Harrelson in Flint, Michigan. Um, and that was like a big deal where we were like, whoa, suddenly Will Ferrell shooting a movie 45 minutes from my home? Like, what the fuck? That was crazy for a kid who wanted to be in Hollywood growing up in a small town in Michigan. So I tried to be a background performer. I did it on a movie, a really bad movie called Demoted, with Sean Astin and David Cross and Michael Vartan. I had one day I made like $120 and you know I got to stand around wearing a shirt and tie and do nothing basically. Like it was like, but it was like, holy cow, I'm on a movie set. Um, and I probably did two, maybe three background jobs before I did two background jobs, and then I went to be a background performer in a movie called Virginia, and it starred Jennifer Connelly and Ed Harris, and it was shooting 3.5 hours from my home in like near Grand Rapids. And I was like, I'm gonna go try to be a background performer. But they said we have speaking parts. And I was like, oh shit, like who knows? Who knows what could happen? So I show up and the local news is there making a big deal out of it. And I'm of course trying to ham it up in front of the local news. Like I'm very obnoxiously advantageous, I would say, at that point in my life. And I see Dustin Lance Black, the guy who's writing and directing the movie, and he had just won an Oscar for writing the movie Milk for Sean Penn. And nobody knew who the hell he was. People weren't that savvy. I was like reading Variety when I was 15, you know what I mean? Like it was that type of shit. So I knew who Lance Black was, and I was like, I'm gonna go say hi to him. So I just walk up to him and say, like, hey man, loved your movie. It was so moving, and your Oscar speech was awesome. That thing where you talk about like God to gay youth, like God doesn't hate you, like that was so necessary to hear. That was beautiful. And I just want to say congrats on everything. It was like a 30-second compliment. It wasn't like I was trying to weasel my way into the movie. I just thought it was cool that I just met an Oscar winner in the city I was born in. Uh, and he said to me, he's like, "What's your name?" And he wrote my name down and my phone number. He goes, "Yeah, we might bring you back. There might be a role for you." I was like, whoa, holy cow. Like, that's exactly why I showed up. I wanted that to happen. Amazing. Then I don't hear anything for 2.5 weeks. And Deadline and Variety are like, Amy Madigan and Emma Roberts joined the cast of Virginia, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, they already started shooting. It's over. I didn't get it. And then, like, I'm bumming really hard. And I felt like I was seeing signs. Like, I kept seeing, like there was a road called Appaloosa in my hometown that I never even noticed. And it's like that was the name of an Ed Harris movie that had just come out. There were all these like Ed Harris like signs in my life at the time. And I was like, this is so weird. Maybe it's meant to happen. And I was like, oh, I guess it didn't happen. And then I found an email and it went to my spam. This is fucked up, actually.
Oh.
The email went to my spam and was like, you have a callback or you have an audition. Can you come? I was like, holy cow. It's like a Wednesday. They want me there the next day. So, like, on a Thursday, I go and audition, and it's me and like 13 guys. And these aren't like actor guys, like, these are like dudes that work at a gas station, and like the only movie they've seen is Die Hard 2. Like, it wasn't a real audition like you would see in LA.
Right.
So I was like, I got a leg up. I'm a psychopath. I'm obsessed with acting. I'm gonna murder these guys. Like, that was in my head. That was the competition thing that you talked about. Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be thinking that way, but of course I was thinking that way. I thought this could be my big break. I have an audition. They bring me back the next day for a callback. It's me and one other guy. So I go in there, do the scene, and as I'm leaving, they go, hey, we need to look at your paperwork. I think you forgot to fill something out. So they make me stay in the office while the other guy leaves. And then the director walks out, Lance Black, and he goes, so you got the part. And I was like, holy shit. I booked a movie in my home state. I'm doing scenes with Ed Harris and Jennifer Connelly. I made like 10 grand in a month, which is the most money I'd ever seen in my life. And I moved to LA like a month later after I shot it.
So that's one of my favorite stories ever because there's I'm not an anti-background kind of guy. I think
I'm not
doing
either.
background is a fine thing to do.
And
But
also, I treat background actors well. There are some
of
actors
course,
who treat them like they have
of course.
15 kinds of STDs, and
Right.
I think it's
No, I think
super, it's mean spirited. I don't like
yeah.
when they do that.
I think it's a true necessity for our industry, and I think people that'll do it that are good at it love it, and it's a great thing. But when I talk to people that are like, I want more than that, especially here. So the difference, Paul, is like right now there's so much going on that it's easy to fall into the background club. And by being in the background club here, it sort of keeps you in the background club. It's kind of hard to transition out of it when your market is so small. But the difference between Paul's story and the story that I try to compare to a lot is Paul showed up on that set, and what got the attention of the people was his commitment to the craft. It wasn't that Paul was hamming it up and they thought, oh, look at that guy, he's going to be good. No, he made the introduction not based on how funny he was or how much he could stand out in the crowd, but it was because he had a knowledge that no one else had. He recognized a writer who no one recognizes the fucking writers. Nobody. Like, and he knew what he was talking about because he loves this thing he's in the pursuit of. He wasn't just there to be like, look at me, I'm on a set. He was there going, I'm on a set. Now what? The pursuit is called the pursuit because you're constantly in fucking pursuit. If you start to get stagnant and you start to stand still and you just think this is going to come to me, it doesn't come to you. It just doesn't. It's not one of those things that you can follow an ABC guide and get to a certain point. You have to, an artist can spot an artist from a mile away. There's a reason why when people come into this studio, I know if you're going to be here for a long time or if you're just going to be here for a short time. I can tell because it's like, in here, we're doing it because we're in pursuit of the art. The thing that Paul said, I become funny because it gave me a purpose. It gave me a thing. Out here, you guys have this crazy opportunity where not only do you get to grow as artists and find out how it defines you as a person, but there's also this new opportunity to parlay that into acting for film and television. Now, he was talking about the Detroit, Michigan rebate that went away. They don't have that anymore. So
No.
the reason I'm here and the reason why I'm doing things like this with my friend Paul and all these other people is because I want to point out, like, with or without that, with or without this Hollywood coming in to save the day thing, you can still pursue this and still find your place in this business without having to take this slow burn sort of road. And we have examples through everyone we've spoken to who's been on this pod. They all started in a different way. They all found their in a different way, but they all found their in because it was the only option they had. None of it happened on accident to anyone I've spoken to. You will not hear one person come on this pod and be like, yeah, I just fell into it because that's a completely different career. Are there actors that do? Sure, I guess. But that isn't what you guys are trying to do. Like you guys are coming to this studio and you're doing this work and you're getting involved in the community and you're trying to figure out what we can do and we're building things and that is the desire. That is the thing. If you're fulfilled doing that, you got it. So Paul, I want to get on to the next point because I think it's important for people to hear about. Because I always say in the studio, I'll go, look, like you'll finally get what you want, right? You get to the top of the mountain and there's just another mountain. So when you're in the pursuit of a real desire, there is no, I did it, ta-da, let me sit back and enjoy it. It doesn't work like that. Because once you get somewhere, you got to get somewhere else.
Though for the record, though, I will say, for the love of God, enjoy it, because Andrew and I have both fallen victim
Yes.
to having booked something or accomplished something, even just getting in the right room where you're like, wow, I just auditioned for so and so. Like, if you don't celebrate that stuff, you're basically just abusing yourself. You desperately have to take those moments in,
I think anytime you get to create your art and do it in a way that feels fulfilling, it's the win. It is. Like
including
Paul.
an audition, though. An
Yeah.
audition is an opportunity to be artful, to
Yeah.
hone your craft, to show what you can do, to read good material sometimes. Like that alone, like how many people started in theater and were just reading like plays with their friends and like basically having like make believe time as a young adults. I mean, that was enough for them starting out. The New York theater scene, there are so many people who for them it was like they weren't even doing it to be movie stars. They became movie stars as a byproduct of having loved the craft and done it so well.
Yeah.
It just
Pursuing the
happened.
desire is the solution to get where you want to go.
Yep.
You may not know where it is you need to go because there've been a million times, and my wife in the back will tell you right now, where I wouldn't book a job. And I would think, that's it. It's over. It's fucking over. I'll give a great example that speaks very personally that a lot of you in here won't think I would talk about. When Paul signed on and got the Farley movie, every single person in my life was like, oh, what? Because I was under the impression, and so is every chubby white actor in the world, that inevitably one of us was going to fucking play Farley, you know? So our whole careers, all of us, me, Paul, Josh Gad. I mean, you go down the list of all these actors that look like we all thought we were playing fucking Farley. That's all of us. So when it comes to Paul, who's my friend, who's my brother, Paul and I couldn't, but you wouldn't believe the shit me and Paul have been through together and what we've done for one another. So when Paul books Farley and people are going, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I'm better than okay. Because 5, 6 years ago would have probably killed me. But the idea that I'm at a point in my career where I realize like that's not my mountain. Okay. I was in pursuit of this idea that someday that's where I would go. But while in the pursuit of my desire, I come across my friend Paul, and Paul and I have our relationship and our life. And I watch Paul's journey, and he watches mine, and we support each other and we help each other, and we get through the hardest times we've ever been through in our lives. And then Paul gets the thing. All that did to me was go, ow, that was Paul's pursuit. Good. So whenever anyone would ask, oh, how do you feel about the Farley thing? I would go, well, of course it's Paul. Look where he's at. Look at Paul. Of course. And if it was me, Paul would have done the same thing. If it was Josh Gad or if it was any of these other guys, we all would have been like, one of us fatties was going to do it, you know?
Well,
And the beauty is Paul has worked harder and paid more dues than it wasn't handed to Paul. If this would have just been given to some random kid that they found on TikTok, me and Paul both would have hunted him down and murdered him and his whole Swear to God, dude, there'd have been a whole caravan of fat actors that you've seen in movies, and we'd have been in a party bus driving to
hey,
Nashville to kill
Tyler
this fat kid.
Hey, Tyler Labine, Will Sasso, grab his arms. Yeah, it would have been that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way. But when it goes to a guy like Paul, you're like, well, shit, yeah, yeah, he just won a fucking Emmy. He's the man. Like he's the guy, of course.
Well, and also let me tack something onto that, whether you meant to bring this up or not. The movie also hasn't been made.
Sure.
And this is what's interesting about our business is
I'm gonna steal it from him at some point. Paul's gonna be off doing fucking Resident Evil fucking 14, and he's not available. Guess what?
guys, Paul came down with kidney stones. He got way too into Coke
A
Zero.
bus full
He
of
can't
fat
do it.
actors pulled up to his house in Atlanta and broke his knees. I don't know what's going on.
No, no, I mean the reality is this. Right now it's my role. A year from now, we could still not have the green light from Warner Brothers New Line. And I could say, I'm turning 40. I have 3 kids, and I don't want to be fat anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the Farley movie because it means more to me to be around longer and enjoy my life and be healthy than wait on a Chris Farley movie that may never get greenlit.
Yeah.
And then I'm not the guy.
Which brings me to the reason why I brought this whole thing up, the mountain on top of a mountain. Right. So I want Paul to talk about this because this isn't a question I would have been comfortable asking like a Jack Houston or not a question I would ask anyone that I interview, but the reason why there's a strategic move in all of this. Like I put this pod together and really it's for you guys. Like we haven't even really figured out the delivery for this thing. But with Paul, I knew getting Paul on was going to be a special night because I can talk to Paul about anything. Paul knows everything about me. I know everything about him. We've been through a lot. I mean, it's a whole nother fucking podcast. But
Yeah.
Paul, I will ask you a question that I'm sure many wouldn't want to ask you because it's a hard thing to ask, but it's no question, Paul, that in the past 5 years, you went from a guy who was on some stuff to a very successful, very famous, very recognizable movie star. You were in every movie that came out last summer. You're the guy, you're the called guy. And I'm not saying that to boost you. I'm saying it because it's facts and we know it and you earned it and I'm complimenting. But what I want you to talk about for a second is what happens after that. It's like you work your whole life to get somewhere. You're sleeping in an apartment with a bunch of people. He was on a floor with, his I mean, it's
Yeah,
been a ride.
in 2013, I slept on a floor in a kitchen in Van Nuys and had to wear 2 pairs of socks because it was freezing cold and we didn't have money to heat the apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, through the pursuit of his desire, Paul is arguably, and it was said to me tonight by one of our members, Dr. Bob, he goes, he's one of the best, most powerful character actors I've ever seen. And I said, yeah, he absolutely is. He absolutely is. So the world now sees Paul Hauser as the guy that's in all this stuff, and everybody loves Paul, and Paul is it. But I want you to talk about what that was like the moment you realized that you made it to the top of the first mountain and had to accept that there was more, because everybody thinks there's a finish line, and there's not. And if anybody has been to what we believe to be the finish line, it's this guy right here. And I want you to talk about what it's like when you get there.
So, I'll answer your question with the discomforting honesty that I'm known for.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly why I asked it because I knew you would.
So, I I this summer I had a few movies. Okay, so let's put it this way: between July and October, which is 4 months, I had 4 movies come out
In
uh,
theaters.
in the theaters. The first one was Naked Gun, which no. First one was Fantastic Four, late July. Second one was Naked Gun, early August. Third one was Americana, mid August, and the fourth one was the Springsteen biopic that came out like 2 weeks ago. All of those combined, I'm just doing math in my head. Forgive me. Uh, 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 so those movies combined, I made about the same money as I made on one independent movie that I started called Luckiest Man in America. So I did not get financially wealthy from those big movies like Naked Gun and Fantastic Four. When you get a Marvel movie, they're not throwing money at you. They know that they're Marvel and that they are very powerful. And they are not going to pay you unless there's like two, three sequels. So that was just like, whoa, I get to work with a great director. I get to be in a Marvel movie. Maybe this will help my career. Let's do it. You know, Naked Gun, it was like a last minute thing where the other guy they had fell out because of scheduling. They offered it to me, and I was like, Akiva Schaffer, Lonely Island, one of the funniest dudes alive working. Hell yeah. Liam Neeson, hell yeah, let's do it. Americana, no money in that, no money whatsoever. That was just an amazing screenplay, and I had to do it based on how brilliant the writing was. So I did it. Deliver Me from Nowhere, not a lot of money. That was just Jeremy Allen White is awesome. I love the bear. Scott Cooper's a total G. The guy made Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges and Black Mass with Johnny Depp. Hell yeah, let's do it. This is gonna be tight. So like a lot of it, let's go right back down. Why am I saying all this? I'm not just ranting. I'm saying why do all of those movies? Well, for one, the material was actually good. The scripts were actually good. The people were kind, and I had an opportunity to work opposite people that I deemed to be very talented, like Liam Neeson and Sydney Sweeney and Jeremy Allen White and Vanessa Kirby, you know? Those are the main reasons for doing that. Now, of those movies coming out, and this is where I'm being a little emotionally immodest, as my old pastor Tim Chaddock used to say.
Shout
Sometimes
out Tim
people are
Shattuck.
sometimes people are emotionally immodest, and I often am, which I'm getting better at. But Fantastic Four comes out the same week that my wife has our baby daughter. So I'm flying back and forth doing press for Naked Gun and Fantastic Four and Americana in three different states: New York, Georgia, California, while my wife is having her baby. And all the time zones are screwing me up. I'm exhausted. And truly, I found out that, a couple of my scenes in Fantastic Four got cut. And I was like, kind of bumming because once again, I do care about the craft. I do love the scene I did with Vanessa Kirby, and it didn't make the movie. And they're telling me, they're like, well, we cut John Malkovich altogether. You're still in the movie. And I'm like, who the hell cuts out John Malkovich? Like, what is going on at Marvel that they're cutting out John Malkovich? Uh, anyway, I was just a little taken aback by it. And I was a little like not in the right headspace. I was worried about my wife and daughter and not the movie. And I thought the movie was going to perform a little bit bigger. And it didn't. It actually didn't. And I wasn't as impactful in the movie as I thought the role could have been. Naked Gun comes out, makes a ton of money, and has crazy good reviews. And I was like, holy cow, this is super tight. And then a couple weeks later, Americana comes out, and Sydney Sweeney has her uh, American Eagle controversy over some jean ad she did. And the movie gets buried. And I don't care, I'll say it, I don't give a crap. The movie gets so buried to the degree that you cannot find our box office numbers on the internet. Somebody scrubbed our box office numbers, and I won't say who because I don't know, but it did so poorly that you cannot find out how much money it made in the theater, which is kind of unheard of. And then Deliver Me from Nowhere comes out, and it's very critically split. We're at like a 58 on Rotten Tomatoes. We have like the negative green tomato thing. And like, it's not as beloved as we thought. And I love the movie. I cried, dude. I was sitting in a movie theater next to my wife. I'm sitting in front of Bruce Springsteen at the Chinese theater. And I'm sitting there crying in the movie at how good it is. and I'm realizing what is my life that to my left is one of my oldest friends, Harrison Gilbertson. To my right is my wife and my manager, Brian Walsh. And Bruce Springsteen is sitting behind me, patting me on the shoulder during one of my scenes, shaking me. I'm like, what the? So those are the highs and lows. I'm just telling you, like,
Did
that
you
is what
tell
it,
Bruce that you lived in his house for a while? What do you say
oh,
about
yeah,
that?
we talked about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
I,
Paul comes back from something. I don't know. Like, I think I was gone too. I lived somewhere else.
Well, I am. Well, let me preface with I torched my marriage and got sober and got into therapy and had to kind of rebuild my life after I screwed it up. So in rebuilding my life, I wanted to make it up to my wife Amy and put her like, let's get a really great house to rent
Oh, it
in
was a
LA.
great fucking house, all right. It was a great house.
It
I said to
was
Paul when I
wait.
came, I saw Paul for and I knew the whole, I was with Paul when he was torching his wife, telling him, hey, dude, not a good idea. We're in Atlanta. And I remember being like, this is kind of fucked up, but okay, like he's on his run. That's his whole other story. There's other
Yeah,
podcasts that talk about that. You can look it up.
yeah. And
But
I
I
was there when
see,
Andrew almost torched his life. So
yeah,
like we've
yeah,
both been there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll call you later. I might be torching it right now. But what I'm saying is, I see Paul again for a while, and he said, "Come to my house. This house I'm renting." I was like, "Okay." And I pull up to this house and I go, oh, wow, Paul is renting a house. And Paul's doing great. He's making amends to his wife. He's getting his life in order. He's sober. He's got his kids. He's doing, I'm so proud of my buddy, right? But I definitely stood with him in the kitchen. I was like, how much are you paying for this, Paul? I was like, I know you're working, buddy, but I know how much they pay us. You ain't making that much money. What is
Well,
going on here? He's like, well, it was Bruce Springsteen's house. I'm like, well, good for fucking Bruce Springsteen, dude. Like,
that
yeah,
was me trying to save it where I'm like, well, you know what's cool about this house? You're like, I'm sure he did live here. You should not be living here.
yeah.
Uh I
And just to piss him off, I'd mix it up. I'd go, how's it living in Rick Springfield's house? Like,
I'd be like, for the last time, Hall and Oates did not make love in my
yeah,
bedroom.
yeah.
No, no, I had gotten a show called After Party at Apple with Ken Jeong and Tiffany Haddish. They're paying us very well for comedy TV. And and then I had a movie with Trey Parker and Matt Stone lined up, which I ended up getting written out of after they did like 10 more drafts, and I was heartbroken. But I thought I had all these jobs lined up, and then I moved out of the house 6 months later because I realized I could never afford this and keep this going. But what I wanted to say was all this is to say, like, my summer, it wasn't like I put it this way. My career hasn't blown up more because of the year I had. This is true. You have to believe me when I'm saying this. I'm not getting a million big offers for things. I'm mostly getting offered indie films that aren't fully financed, and I'm often the guy they go to first to attach to the project.
Yeah.
So they don't come to me with money or bells and whistles. They go, "We want you to be the lead, but also we don't have any money up front, and we technically aren't saying this, but we want you to attach because we know actors like you, and if you attach, we can get A, B, C, D, and E, F, G." That happens to me twice a month. Uh, Quality problem to have, by the way. But
Sure, but no less frustrating. I mean, it's
but
the same as
yeah,
auditioning and not getting a call back. It's the same. It's the next mountain. It's like
it's
before
the next one.
you audition, and then nothing. And then the next mountain is you audition, get a call
And
back, and nothing. And the
and
next mountain
also
is,
getting typecast, you know. I just got it. I just got like two offers in the last week for movies next year, and these are nice people that I like who are friends of mine who are offering me stuff, but I'm like, I've already done this character to death. Like, I care enough about the craft and the art and the pursuit, that desire, like everything we're talking about. I care about it enough to not repeat myself 100 times.
right. Which I think
So,
we've talked about this a lot. It's been I would make fun of
yeah.
Paul because I'm an asshole. I think maybe the way I've dealt with Paul's success is by roasting him as often as I possibly can.
Wait,
And
no, no,
so
no, 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 no. You were doing that back when I met you, though. That's not like a thing that you're like to
that's
deal
true.
with Paul's success. It's more
Yeah.
like you've always been doing that.
I've
Yeah.
always kind of done that. But and this is Paul's joke, not mine. So I'm not even gonna take credit for it. But Paul was like, I'm sick of, did Paul just leave us? Oh, dude, I roasted him too hard and he left. It's like it doesn't matter how successful you are. We all are victims to the dead computer battery.
It literally said charging with the lightning bolt, and then it died. I was like, "What the hell is going
Well,
on?"
you
Sorry.
got rich off the hook,
You were talking about making fun of me.
so so Paul had said to me one time, and this is during a dark period of my life. I was having a dark situation. This is Paul talked about the Fantastic Four, like the edits and getting cut out of the film, and like, and you most of you heard me talk about Matrix. Same story. And
Oh
this
God,
is
your Matrix story is rough.
brutal, but it's the same story. It's just from a different thing, but like absolutely brutal. And I'm sitting with Paul at Bruce Springsteen's house, and I'm devastated. And I'm talking about it. And Paul had said to me, in jest, he goes, all I get to do is play dead fat guys. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, that is kind of what's been happening to Paul. Paul is getting these, and now granted, it's because it's hard to play real people. It's really hard. You have to be very, very good to play a person that already exists. So it's a but as I'm sitting there in my woes about the opportunities I'm not getting, I'm sitting there with my friend who is not talking to me from his ego. He's talking to me as an artist and as buddies. Of course, if I was a piece of shit, I could have been like, yeah, well, at least you're getting roles. Fuck you. But at the same time, I'm like, no, dude, I understand. Because to you, you're in the pursuit of this massive desire and you're getting put in this box, and that's got to be shitty,
and
especially when
and
you're as good
it's
as
and
you are.
it's still happening, but what I do is I turn stuff down and I make decisions that I think are the best decision in the moment. Sometimes you take a job because there are enough boxes ticked. You're never going to tick all the boxes either. Like it's not like nobody comes to Andrew Caldwell or Paul Hauser and goes, "Hey, we want to give you $1 million to shoot in Hawaii, and you're playing opposite Adam Sandler, but it's a dramedy, so we need you to be funny, but you also have to act, and it could go through award season." Nobody's saying that. No one's offering that. It's usually like, oh, I get to work in Hawaii, but I'm working with this actor who's kind of a horrible person. Or it's like, oh, I have to go to Budapest. I'm going to be in Budapest or East Berlin or wherever Andrew was for Matrix.
During
Oh, but
COVID.
I'm working with Keanu Reeves and Keanu's the shit. So it's like, it's a lot of trade-off stuff and you deal with it and it works out. But I would say it has been a thing of like me having to go, what is something I haven't done yet? And I've never done a horror movie. That's part of the reason I went and did Resident Evil. It wasn't a boatload of cash. It wasn't a lead role, but Zach Kreger is brilliant. I think Sony is going to push and pump the movie in a way where it might have massive visibility. And I've never done a horror film, so that was the right decision for me the last 2 weeks.
It's been really beneficial to not only be your friend, Paul, and watch you go through this journey while I too have gone through my journey, and to have the yin and yang with you for the last 7 years has been some of the most meaningful relationship moments that you can possibly have, because
And
a lot of the stuff I talk about with you guys comes from not just my experience, but the experience of people that I love, trust, and admire. And Paul is one of those people. I do want to ask you a little bit about. Let's go back before we get to the Q&A part. I want to close on this conversation just to tie it all in. So we go back to the kid, Paul Hauser, Saginaw, Michigan, young kid, figures out that comedy is his way to have purpose, figures out that comedy is his way to have control of situations and give him a stance that matters. What happened to that kid the day you booked your Golden Globe, or you got that Golden Globe, or you got that award? Because Blackbird, another fat dead guy, but Blackbird, and I'd seen Paul right after Blackbird, and I'd asked him like, this guy, did you have any reference point really? And he was like, no, not really. And that was I know how hard Blackbird was for Paul to do, not only artistically but in his life, and I'll let him decide how far he wants to talk about that. But Blackbird was there's a reason the universe gave him awards for that. There's a reason because the artist had to really sacrifice a lot to make Blackbird. And it worked. If you've seen it, it's one of the most amazing performances ever. It was awarded because it was. But Paul had to really sacrifice for that. And so what did the 12-year-old kid who found comedy and entertainment as a way to feel like he mattered, what did that kid say to you when they called your name and you walked up there and won that award with everything you'd sacrificed and everything that he's going to cry, everything you sacrificed and everything that you went for to have that validation? What did that do?
Um, I feel like people want me to answer by like giving a glowy account of how emotional I was. I wasn't that emotional. I watching the show, watching all 6 episodes of the show was more validating than winning a Golden Globe. Here's why I say that. I knew we all nailed it. We all did the job and nailed it. So it's kind of like somebody saying to you, what was it like to win the championship? And for me, it was more like, we had a great season. I'm not just looking at a trophy like this is the validation. To me, the validation is we won a bunch of games, and that's what led us to the season. And we're holding, the trophy on the court, and they're cutting the nets from the rim. Uh, but that's from looking at the bigger picture. When I was a kid, it was very aspirational. How do I win an Oscar? How do I win an Emmy? How do I win a Golden Globe? How do I? Now it's like the mountain is to keep proving that I'm really good at what I do and that I can and that I want to make great things for people to enjoy. Just like a chef, it's like I'm not just making this to jerk myself off. Someone has to eat this at some point. Someone's got to eat this food I've prepared as a chef. So, as you and I, in the culinary sense, if we're in the kitchen making these movies and TV shows, it's like you care a lot about making iZombie great, even if iZombie isn't the height of like our cinematic universe of like what you can do in our industry. You took that role seriously. I saw it. I remember thinking you transformed for that role. And if you don't treat a scrimmage like a Super Bowl, you never get to the Super Bowl. So guys like you and me were treating smaller things with serious intent, and then it led us to bigger things to where now Nicolas Cage or Liam Neeson are pulling us aside and telling us like, you crushed today.
Yeah.
And they hug us and walk off and we're like, thanks, very famous guy. That's the win. So like I know your question was meant for me to be like, when I got the Golden Globe, I didn't feel that way. Cause in my head, I just know I'm good. I don't need a trophy to tell me I'm good.
And the truth is, Paul, that question was not meant to make you break down and go back into the thing. It was meant to point out the thing I talk about here all the time.
The mountain. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the
yeah,
fucking mountain. You
yeah.
pursue the thing, you do the thing, you know you're good at what you do, and whether it's a scene in class, a cinematic scene that we shoot, a 90210 old pilot presentation, or working on a student film in Western New York. If you do the work and you do the work the right way, and the artist eats, whether you win a Golden Globe or whether no one sees it at all, you're already validated. If the artist doesn't eat, they go crazy. Painters can paint, singers can sing, sculptors can sculpt. Actors only get the chance to act every once in a while. So that art form is oppressed. We don't get to use it that often. So by changing the narrative internally from the reward me, validate me, give me, and doing it in the way where you're like, ah, this is why I love it. That Golden Globe is exciting.
It's
It's
it,
great.
it's exciting, but it also doesn't matter in the light of all the other realities, which the only reason I want to win a Golden Globe is it'll put eyeballs on my work and get me a better job on the next mountain. Like it's just about like I want to work with Christian Bale. I'm dying to work with Nicolas Cage. I'm obsessed with Nick Cage. I adore him. But like I say all that to say, like it is about the work. The work is the win. It isn't about what can I get. It is about what can I give. And then
Ooh,
also,
say that again. It's not about
it's
what
not
you can
about what
get.
I can get, it's about what I can give.
There you go.
But
There you
then, but then the golden rule is that inevitably, gratitude reciprocates, and you putting your heart and your gratitude into that and doing a good job, you will get what you wanted because you gave, right? It's like karma. It does happen. So I would say that, and then I would also say this, and I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm trying to get a fucking idea across that I think is really important. There was a minister who once said this phrase in a sermon that I watched on YouTube. He said, "You are not a problem looking for an answer. You are an answer looking for a problem." So when you go into these experiences and these opportunities, whether it's a spec commercial and you're supposed to take a sip from a can of something out of a Maytag fridge, and that's the whole deal, or you're doing Shakespeare in front of 90 people, or you get to do what Andrew and I have done, where you're working opposite some legend like Keanu Reeves or Liam Neeson. Like, you have to believe that you're there to solve a problem. You're an answer. You have value. You are the answer to that problem in that moment. And how well do you want to answer the problem? You can be a Boy Scout about it and show up and be like, I am ready to give everything, and have that Eagle Scout mentality or whatever. Or you can be like, a burnout kid in Hollywood who shows up late and is like, fucking whatever. And by the way, both those people are going to work. Both those people are going to work because the burnout kid that doesn't study also has a little bit of an X factor thing that's getting him in the rooms and getting him jobs.
go.
But I personally would rather be the Boy Scout, Girl Scout, Eagle Scout who's showing up and is like, "Oh, you want me to do your fat guy for 5 minutes in your movie? I'm gonna do the best fucking fat guy you've ever seen, and you're gonna wish you wrote five more fucking scenes."
Hell yeah.
And if you go in with that chip on your shoulder and you do the homework and you're nice to people, look out. The
Yeah.
entire world is going to give you what you want.
If your
That was
intentions are proper, if you're going about it with a proper intention, the law of attraction, karma, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, it's real as fuck, especially for artists. And you know that already because you're pursuing something unrealistic. If that ain't faith, I don't know what is. So you can call faith whatever you want it to be, but if you believe right now in this room, all of you, that you have the ability to be the person to do the thing, then you have faith in something. And if you don't have that faith, don't waste the universe's time. This industry is a faith-based thing.
and
For something
also
that's for something that is so driven in like sin, our industry is so faith-based, you have to believe it. You have to believe it wholeheartedly because if you don't, no one else will. And the one who does gets it. So you have to believe it. So trust that that's a real thing. Try Paul's telling you, I'm telling you from you're hearing it over and over again. If you believe it's going to happen, it will if you're doing it the right way. If you do it the wrong way, it still might happen, but it won't feel as good. There is a different level in which people play the game. It's true. So Paul,
well
we're going
said.
to do a couple Q&As if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I got like 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. So the first question's from Carafe. Carafe asks, you spoke about doing three press tours while wife gave birth. How do you feel the work-life balance works? How do you choose what to prioritize and when?
Great question. Thank you for that. I made the dates work where I was there for the pre-birth. I was there for the actual birth. And I found ways to intersperse. There are things I said no to where like Paramount was like, "Do you want to throw out the first pitch at a baseball game?" And I'm like, "No, I that's not going to help our movie get seen." Like
Well,
I'm
and
like,
also Paul throws like a little bitch. So
and also I throw like a little bitch. But I wasn't going to bring that up. It's a thing of like you have to pick and choose. You have to advocate for yourself. And this is another thing I haven't talked about, and I don't know if I'm supposed to, and I don't care. Um,
Told
when
you.
Americana was coming out, the studio Lionsgate was like, "Hey, we really need you and Halsey and Sydney Sweeney to be at this screening we're doing in Hollywood." And I'm like, I'm exhausted. My wife just had a baby. She needs me. We have two other kids under the age of 5. I thought to myself, I was like, do you need Paul Hauser to promote your movie when you have Sydney Sweeney and Halsey, who combined have like 1 billion followers and they're both like beautiful women? Do you really need Paul Hauser? You don't. You don't. And that's me advocating for myself and saying, you go do the work. I did the work. I crushed the role. I did the movie. You go be the salesman because I got work at home.
Yeah.
And so you have to advocate for yourself in that work-life balance. You cannot kiss everybody's ass and do every little thing. It's impossible.
So, Paul, the next question comes from Chris Sams, who is you and I from another dimension. He's the Buffalo Chris Sams. He literally looks like, well, Chris, come here. Come here. Get on camera. Come here. He looks like if you and I had a baby, we would have
Oh,
Chris Sams.
do I want
Come
to
here,
see?
dude. Come here. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Seriously?
Dude, look at this guy. He looks like our child.
Hey,
Yeah.
hello, son.
So here, Chris, come here. Ask your question. Ask your question. So that's Chris's question. This is Chris's question.
So this is my question. What influences do you use to keep up your pursuit of acting during hard times?
Chris goes, "How do you sleep with background actors?" I go, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to talk about that. No, what was the question?
He said, "What influences or what do you use to keep up your pursuit of acting during these hard times?"
Watching really good movies is over half of the work. Seeing what's out there, seeing what people are responding to, and understanding why. Um,
Making babies.
Making kids is a good thing to do if you want to alter your life significantly. Now, you know what else? Watch stuff that you wouldn't normally watch. Don't just watch the thing that you're prone to watching. Um, I listen to full albums of artists I have zero interest in. Why do I do that? Everybody's bugging out about them. Different demographics are. I want to know what it is that people are responding to. Because no matter what, I'm sponging everything that I encounter, and it may come out in one of my performances in a way that's useful.
So this is from Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob says, Paul, sir, how do you prepare to deliver those amazing facial expressions and nonverbal and verbal delivery of the character of Larry Hall in Blackbird? I think what Dr. Bob is asking is how deep was Blackbird based on delivery and experience? Because he's saying your nonverbal and the facial expressions were so amazing.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks, dude.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, with Larry, it was settling into it enough to with Larry Hall, it was settling into the character enough to trust yourself to go off the page a little bit. And I don't just mean improvise a bunch, because I didn't do that much. I did it a few times, but like it's really the improv of internal thought that can then bring about external results. So when you do a take while you're locked in with a Larry Hall or a Richard Jewell, one of those roles that I've done, if you're so locked in, when they yell cut, someone's gonna come up to you from the crew and be like, "Dude, that thing you did with the piece of bread," and you're like, "I don't even remember doing that." That's when you're really like in it. Now, we don't all get there, myself included. There are going to be plenty of days where you're fully cognizant of
Mine
everything.
do.
And
My actors get there.
fuck you.
My actors get there, dude. They do. I'm sorry, dude, but they
Whatever.
do.
I don't know how much you're paying this guy, but it's a crock. No,
I
it's
just
the
dropped
kind
what they paid me $50 last month, so
of,
less.
oh wow. They call him Andrew Benevolence Caldwell.
Yeah.
I am no, but I'm telling you, like Dr. Bob and everybody else, the most fun you'll ever have as an actor is when you give yourself permission to live in it and to make mistakes or to make monuments. I talk about the French dip sandwich all the time, not just because I'm fat and I kind of want to fuck a French dip sandwich now and again, but I say the French dip because it was an accident. Somebody dropped a roast beef sandwich in a pan of au jus gravy, and it became a menu staple, right? So know that a lot of things you do as an actor, they may come out looking like an accident, and then the editor uses it and puts it in the movie or the show. Now, why is that? It's because you trusted yourself enough to fall back and live and breathe in the character and do something that felt right without over analyzing it.
I'm raising my prices $50 back up.
I think you should, because I
Prices
just
back up.
gave like $9 worth of advice for
Yeah,
sure.
that's at least $9.
Yeah, that would be
All
my
right,
answer. I
Paul,
got,
last question, man.
let's
And I
hear it.
think it's a great way to bring it home because of everything you've talked about. What is the next challenge for you artistically? That's for my boy Jalen right there. Jalen's a true artist, wants to know what is the next challenge? What are you trying to accomplish now?
Um, More lead roles. I'm about to do a lead role in a Paramount movie. Um, I'm attached to a couple lead roles that are promising with directors I like and stuff. But yeah, I'll do supporting roles the rest of my life because I have to work and make money, and they're fun. I don't need to be the lead, but I'd like to while I'm still vaguely young. Before I turn 50, I'd like to do as many lead roles as I can to help my career out and to take on the leadership role of being the lead in a movie. Because I also learned I did a movie in June in New York called The Very Best People this year. And I was a producer, I was the lead of the movie. And I learned on that movie that I have it in me to be a leader for people on a movie set and advocate for them while advocating for myself. I didn't really know if I had that in me, but that recent job led me to believe that part of what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my career is taking on a fatherly role on set. I used to be the kid brother and make everybody laugh. Now it's like, how am I doing the greatest good? What is the highest good I can do while here? How do I settle disagreements between coworkers? How do I fight to get the best actor in the movie? Um, all these things. I mean, I have a hand in casting movies and rewriting scripts now. Just when I get attached, I don't even have to be the lead. Literally, I'm telling producers like, you should go after this actor. You should write me into that scene. I want to work with Anthony Hopkins. And the guy is like, yeah, sure. We'll put you in the scene with Hopkins. Like, I don't do that just out of like, I don't do it out of like ego or just selfish gain. I do it because I have the comfortability to make more decisions now. So that's where I'm headed is making more decisions, being able to advocate for everyone on a movie, not just myself, and being able to help sort of maintain the environment on a movie to where it doesn't go south creatively or just socially and emotionally for the people on board. Because the hours are long, man. The hours are long. There are people who don't get along. There are people who don't feel like they're listened to. I had a really hard thing. I'll leave you with this, which was something that broke my heart.
Are you
Somebody
about to
pulled me
talk
as
about what I think you're about to talk about?
no, I'm going to talk about something I've never talked about,
Oh, okay.
which I'm still like need to talk through with my therapist and stuff. I had some women pull me aside and they were like, in the hair and makeup department, they go, hey, a lot of the complaints you hear from people are, I've noticed you think they're hard to believe, but you don't understand that everybody's showing their best version of themselves to you. So, what I learned in 6, 7 weeks of doing this movie, being a producer and star, is not everybody is who they say they are. Sometimes they're just putting up their best front because they want to look good in front of me, but then they're like bullying somebody behind my back who's lower on the totem pole in the movie. That was really hard for me to deal with because I like to imagine that everybody is their best version of themselves and I can take people at face value. And something I'm learning about the politics of movies and TV and the business is that not everybody is who they say they are. And that's really hard for me. That's something I'm dealing with right now and having to come to terms with. And also knowing when people are using you or not. And Andrew, I know you've been through this.
Well, we just went through it, Paul.
What do you mean?
You and I just went through this, where we had to go through the industry's push and pull, and
Oh, for the Paramount
yeah,
movie?
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Same
thought
thing
that's where
of
you were
just
going
like
with that.
not where I was going, but great way to end it is like
Tell it, Paul. Tell the story.
I pitched Andrew for a movie. He did a self tape. Everybody loved it, but somebody else was chosen, and it had a lot to do with like fame and not necessarily the best read. And
And
that's
let me
something
just say,
that's
I'm going
still
to interrupt you, but and then I'll let you off here because you're done.
yeah.
Paul and I share a manager. So everything that Paul deals with professionally and me, our manager is a brilliant guy. You met Brian. You all know Brian. He's brilliant. And he walks a wonderful line with Paul and I because we are a family, the three of us, and we are close.
Yes.
And Brian calls me. Some of you know the story, some of you don't. I'll let Paul wrap it up. But I get a call from Brian a couple days ago. I was the guy for this role. It was Paul's movie. It's Paul's fucking movie. And Paul says, "Bro, it's my movie. Like I auditioned for one role. They were like, now this role." I was like, "Done." We do the tape. Tape was killer. Paul loves it. Director loves it. Casting loves it. Done deal. Right? Easy breezy. Paul gets the choice. Paul has the stance. Paul's allowed to say yay or nay. So I'm over here living my life thinking, well, Paul, like, obvious, like, come on, this is a slam dunk. Like, this is a no. And I got Spider-Man coming out. This is easy, easy booking. And the studio decided at the Hail Mary moment they wanted someone more famous. And so Paul fought for me, and I know he fought for me, and Brian fought, and they said, no, we want the famous guy. And my manager calls me here at the studio the other day, and he goes, hey, man, Paul's furious. Paul's very upset. And Paul has the opportunity to say, fuck you, I'm walking off this movie. And because Paul is the kind of guy he is, I don't know if he was going to or not, but it was considered. And I told my he was in Prague, so I couldn't get a hold of him. I'd been texting him, I couldn't talk to him. So I told my manager, next time you talk to Paul, tell Paul I said I love him with all my heart and I appreciate everything. And he doesn't have to worry about this at all. Because I know how this shit goes. Paul can pull his string and do it. Paul's earned his place. But when it comes to something like this, I, Paul doesn't have to
And
worry about.
it's also you have to pick and choose battles. So right now, Paramount and a lot of these studios are growing because they're all trying to monopolize, and the jobs are becoming more scarce.
Yeah.
So it's also about keeping your reputation with executives, studio people, not coming off as somebody who's going to rock the boat too much, because you're also fighting for another day and another year. And the hope is that I'm eventually one of these guys like Kevin Hart who stars in enough movies and they go, you can do whatever you want. Adam Sandler, Kevin Hart, Mark Wahlberg. And those are just people, you know, these are just people. Kevin, Adam, Mark. I've met these guys. They're they're good people that are just like you and me, and they got enough breaks to where they turn them into these little, mini studios, and they have these crazy lives. But they do a lot of work, and they keep those relationships because they know that down the line they're going to cash in also and put Andrew Caldwell in an even better movie, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of, and I feel bad, and I'll end it with this because I really got to go. But I'll say this: learn the business a little bit. You don't have to be obsessed with it. I kind of got obsessed with it and it was like annoying and not necessary. But based on where I want to go and have my own production company and help other people rise to the top who are really talented, you have to know the business. Because there are some people sitting around going, why am I not getting auditions? It's like, bitch, did you read Variety? They just laid off 1,000 people at Netflix. They just laid off 2,500 people at Disney or whatever. It's like, this is bigger than you, boo boo.
Yeah.
The whole industry is dealing with layoffs, monopolization, automation, and AI. It's a mess right now.
And
So
power struggle. Power
it is
struggles,
a
Paul.
massive power struggle. We are
Yeah.
in a unique turning point tipping point position. And the best thing you can do is do your homework, keep a good attitude, and self create for the love of God. YouTube, TikTok, you don't have to be a 15-year-old to do TikTok. If
Just
you're
do your work.
38 and you have another business, go start a TikTok, go do the work. The whole world is waiting to find out how special you are and what you have to contribute, but they're never going to see it or hear it if you don't go do it. So don't wait for Paramount or Disney. Go be your own Paramount and Disney till they call you.
Paul Walter Hauser, you know more than anybody. I have a deep rooted guttural love for you. I love you with all my heart.
Love you too.
You're one of the most beautiful people I know. You've been there for me in the best and worst times, and I couldn't appreciate you coming on and talking to my people. You validated a lot of stuff, but I love you, buddy, and I appreciate you coming on and doing this with me.
You're the man. And you've always been more talented than you give yourself credit for. Guys like us can be very self-deprecating to a flaw sometimes. And I'm thrilled to see you starting a family and having the confidence and earned intellect to just be in all these different spaces, killing it. And when the industry wakes the fuck up someday, I hope we are both so busy that someone is interviewing both of us on somebody else's show. Love you.
I love you, buddy. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Love y'all. Thank you
All right.
much.
Thank you.